The theater. What's happened to the theater? Do you remember that opening for one of the songs in the movie White Christmas? Danny Kaye singing that about what's happened to the theater. Well, so much is happening to the theater. And this conversation today is about something that I think is creative and very exciting happening to the theater and with the theater in Oregon. So we're going to learn more about that this morning, and I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you are too. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. I guess I should say, as Kim Baker says, good morning, afternoon, and happy Catterday, because it's not necessarily morning everywhere, is it? But welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. My name is Steve, and this is the show where we come together around our virtual coffee table each week and join the conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. If you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. If you've been with us before as a part of our brew crew, welcome back. Yeah, we're going to be talking. That's a great question. I see Carissa put the question in the chat. What's everybody sipping on this? I've got my coffee. I don't see Shalane in here, so Rick, it's up to you. All right, I'll set it over there for just a moment. Talk about a few things here. I do want to say hello, and Kim Baker, good morning, afternoon, and happy Catterday. I know we already said that, but and you're right, Carissa. Kathleen Bean Jones is a fantastic name. I think, and we'll get into this when we get in, you'll hear this in the conversation, but I think they call her as kind of her nickname. They call her Bean. So that's pretty cool. And good to see you, Carissa. I know we see her words. Rick, I already mentioned you, but good morning, Carla. Good morning. And if you are joining the conversation, do make sure you say hello in the chat, or hi, or greetings, or good meowing afternoon, and happy Catterday. Whatever is your cup of tea. We do, of course, always just remind you that we want to keep the conversation appropriate. We do monitor the conversation, and we do ask, say hi to Willa. All right. Well, I'll say hi to Willa. And I want to welcome the new people who are joining in. If you are with us for the first time, let us know how you found us and what brings you here. And we are going to have a great conversation today about the theater. I hope you're as excited about it as I am. Just want to know how everybody's doing today. What's the weather like? I was speaking to a friend in Colorado yesterday, and it was snowing hard there. Of course, we're still in winter, not quite spring yet. Although here in Spokane, in Eastern Washington, we have what they call false spring. I had to learn about that when we moved here. But right now, today, it is overcast outside, but it's also in the mid 40s, and probably could get up into the mid 50s today. And we've had several days in the last week or so when it's been blue sky, sun shining, very mild, shirt sleeve weather almost outside. And then what tends to happen here is that after we go through false spring and everybody gets all their spring clothing out and the short sleeves and the shorter skirts and blah, 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 then we're going to get snow again. I can almost guarantee it. We're going to get snow. The first year that Carol and I were here, we had snowfall on Good Friday in April, mid-April. So we know that can happen. What's the weather like where you are at, and how are you doing? Is Kathy here? I said Carla said, hi, Kathy. Did I see Kathy on here? Kathy's here. All right. Hi, Kathy. Yes. Again, welcome, everyone. Hey, I want to get to our sweet and savory, so we make sure we're staying on track here and getting to our topic, all one of it. No, we have all of our guests, though, because we have several today. But first thing is, even though it's not spring, do you know what happens tonight? This is in the United States. This is the switch from standard time, which is what we have during the fall and winter months, to daylight saving time. The good news is we get more hours of sunlight, supposedly. I don't know how that really changes. It shifts. We don't get more. It immediately shifts where those hours of sunlight are showing up. The bad news is to get there tonight, we lose an hour of sleep. We have to set the clocks. We set the clocks forward 1 hour, which means all of a sudden when it's 2 o'clock, it becomes 3 o'clock in the morning. Not that I'm waiting up that late to do it. And the nice thing is that most of my clocks now digital, and they're connected to the World Wide Web, so they change automatically overnight. Now, I still got several clocks around the house that I'm going to have to do manually, and I'll get to it. Not a big deal. But yeah, are you one of the people? Let us know in the chat. Are you someone who is in favor of year-round daylight saving time, or not changing the clocks? I don't care if it's year-round standard or year-round daylight saving time. That's true in a few places. I don't remember. Kim Baker, are you year-round, same time? I can't remember. I know parts of your part of the country are, but I don't remember if you are specifically. But there are people who live in areas, sometimes little pockets within certain states, where they keep the clocks the same, which I think is even more confusing because, you go to the next town over and your time zone's all screwed up. Hey, I want to ask you if you heard about this story. This is not a brand new story, but I just heard about it this last week. There was a town in Nebraska, Monowee, Nebraska, that has a population of 1. The lady's name is Elsie Eiler. And it is an established and registered township in Nebraska. All right. And at times in the past, it's been around for decades. And at times in the past, there was a small population there. But over time, people have either moved away or they've died off. Elsie Eiler is the only remaining resident of the town of Monowee, Nebraska. And as a result, she has to, by law, take on certain roles. And we got a little video here I'm just going to play. And this is actually, I think this video is a few years old. I was trying to find, and I love to always give credit and attribution when I can find it. The source that I found this video was not the original source. So I cannot, unfortunately, properly attribute it. But I want you to take a look at this video that shares just a little bit about Monowee, Nebraska, and its single resident, Elsie Eiler.
I live at Monowee, Nebraska. And, I'm the only one that lives here in town. Everybody else has either passed away or moved away, and this is where I chose to stay. My parents moved to a farm about a quarter of a mile out of town here when I was about 1.5 years old. Been here ever since. It'll be 14 years now next month that I've been here by myself. I have a daughter and a son. They have both lived away more or less ever since I got out of school. So people say, don't they worry about you? And I said, yes, they do worry about me, but they also respect the fact that this is what I want to do. The post office and the little grocery store closed about the same time that we bought this in '71. So that kind of put us into the owner business. I open up the bar at 9, and there's trucks coming and salesmen coming and customers coming and some just coming to visit and have a cup of coffee, and they leave messages for one another. They call to see if somebody's here. It's just sort of a meeting place, a hub, and I think everybody feels welcome to come. Everyone needs a place like that, I guess, including myself. Yeah, being I'm the only one here in town, there are other responsibilities besides the bar. I am the mayor, and I am the town board, basically, but then I don't worry about elections because there's not much competition. I get kidded about it some, but I tell them, well, sorry, you're not in the city limits. You can't come in and vote. So the town of Monowee, and I guess to a certain extent myself, we have become a household word. I don't know, I guess people kind of find it interesting or fascinating or something. And I have people that have been here from 47 of the states, and I've had from 41 or 2 foreign countries. you know, and when you get to be 84 years old, there's a comfort in kind of knowing everybody, and around here, somebody's always checking on me and looking after me and, you know, doing things for me, and so maybe they got me spoiled because they kind of keep track of me and look after me, and yeah, I really don't have any desire to live anywhere else. I'm perfectly happy right where I'm at now.
Is that not an amazing and just precious story? As I mentioned, this video is several years old. As I was doing research on Elsie and the town of Monowee this last week, I think that now she is 91 or 92 years old. She's still going. She is, among other things in this town, as I looked it up, the mayor, the sheriff, the librarian, she runs the bar. If there is, like I said, she's the town council, she's everything, and she has to vote for herself during elections in order, and it's not something that she's doing just as a novelty, because the township of Monowee is an official township. State of Nebraska by law requires that they have these positions in town. She has to have a liquor license for her bar that she has to apply for to herself and approve herself. And, you know, I mean, it's just her. It was she and her husband for many years, and her husband passed away several years ago. So just her. So I loved that story. I really, when I first found this, I thought I need to get Elsie Eiler on Coffee Breaks with Steve as a guest. As it turns out, I could find no evidence that this lovely lady has any kind of social media presence, an email address. She's in her 90s. She's taking care of herself just fine. She probably doesn't need that. Imagine that she has a computer of some type and knows how to use it. Maybe she doesn't need that. Good for her. I thought that was an amazing story, and I wanted to share it with you. So we wish Elsie Eiler great success, continued success and luck in Monowee, Nebraska. A couple of birthdays this week that we want to recognize. Katie Truesdell. I don't know if you remember Katie. She's been on the show a couple of times. She owns a really specialized travel agency called Magical Mystery Tours. And their specialty is that they put together mystery and surprise vacation packages for their customers. They don't just throw them at them. They have an entire process so that they match up these mystery vacations with preferences and the budgets of their customers. But Katie is a fascinating person. She has a fascinating business, but she also has a birthday today. So we wish Katie Truesdell a very, very happy birthday. And then our friend Chrissy Whitehead has a birthday this next week. Chrissy is an actor, singer, dancer, and teacher. And filmmaker. She recently made both a film about her life story, which she'd originally written as a stage play, and a documentary about making that film. And they both been on a circuit. But beyond that, Chrissy has a birthday this week. And so we want to wish Chrissy Whitehead a very, very happy birthday. And then we want to know if you have a special day this week. It can be a birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be something else special that you are celebrating. Let us know in the chat. And if you have something coming up perhaps later in the month of March or later this year, you can let us know about that by email, sending us an email to cbwsteve@comcast.net. That way we make sure hang on. That way, we make sure we get it on our calendar and we can celebrate with you during the week of your special day. Also, if you have some things like stories like the one about Elsie Eiler and Monowee, Nebraska that you think we should be aware of, something that we might want to feature on our Sweet and Savory segment, you can send that to us at the same email address, and we will make sure we look into that and see if that's something we can share with Sweet and Savory. Once again, just want to remind everyone to say hi in the chat. We want to remind everyone to keep your comments here so that we can see what you're talking about. We do ask they be appropriate and somewhat relevant. Some people get going chatting with each other here, and that's fine. But we ask that it stay appropriate, whether you're joining us. And the other thing that we haven't done yet is I haven't put our chat up here where everybody can see it, because some people are joining us from Facebook, some join us from YouTube. And if we don't put it here, I see all of the comments in the chat. My director, Carissa, sees all of the comments in the chat. You only see what's on your platform. So if you're tuning in on Facebook, you don't see any comments that someone coming in from YouTube is making, and vice versa. So we run them here so that you can continue to see them. We'll try to keep that up unless it covers someone's face. Hey, listen, I'm not going to give you a full bio about our guests today, because that would take half the rest of the show, and I'm already probably running a little bit late. They're going to tell you their stories as we get into this. But I do want to just mention that this is a story and guests that were brought to us by Carissa. And it is a theater located in Aloha, Oregon, the Beaverton, Oregon area. And over the last several years, they have put together a theater program. They now have their own facility to do this. That is what is called immersive theater. They're going to talk about that. They're going to share what that means and what that is and how that works. But you're going to be meeting the artistic director, Alisa Stewart, and two of the board members, Kathleen Bean-Jones and Ryan Pfeiffer. And they're going to tell you about their own backgrounds and stories, and they're going to tell you about the project and the theater that they work with. So here's my conversation with the three of them, with a little introduction, by the way. Well, I would like to say, first of all, Kathleen, Alisa, and Ryan, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. It is a pleasure to have all three of you here for this conversation today.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
So we did a little brief introduction about Experience Theater Project before we got started today. But I think, as we get into talking about the program, the theater itself, sometimes it's also interesting to just learn about the people and kind of where you began. So I'd be curious to hear from each of you about your own background and what first drew you to being involved in theater, in not only in this project, but in theater in general. And Kathleen, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I started teaching about 25 years ago, and instantly theater was what I wanted to teach. It had been a life-changing experience for me growing up personally, to be involved in the arts and in theater in particular. And so I began doing camps and classes and, through the Park and Rec and just a variety of mediums like that. Began directing shows, mostly with kids in them. And then I went on and I got my master's degree in teaching. And so it became what I did professionally, and just finished in December doing that.
Wow.
I think theater is the most life-changing experience that you can give a child, simply for two reasons. One, I think that everyone can find a home in theater and in the arts, whereas there might be some extracurricular activities where that isn't true, but the arts tend to be very welcoming. The other thing is the impact it has and the life skills that translate. So for students that have, concerns about being in front of other people or public speaking, learning about time management and showing up and doing your best, it's applicable in everything you do as an adult. And it's wonderful to see the transition of students who might be paralyzed from stage fright, but learn about their emotions and learn about being part of an ensemble and begin to come out of their shell. Particularly the last 10 years, I've worked quite a bit with neurodivergent students, and just the blossoming that can take place within the theater world. So not only do I love to act myself, but more so I love seeing what the arts can do for anyone that wants to give it a go, and just the transformation that can take place in their own life. That's what keeps me in it and always will.
Ryan, I'm going to go to you next, and kind of with the same question, kind of your own background and experience, and what has led you to be involved ultimately in this program.
Oh, how to begin it? It just seemed like the arts had followed me for most of my life, and even before I knew what it was, because even as a kid, it all started with this memory that I could just watch a movie a few times and start remembering like what was in it. Even today, repartee is a thing for me. I'll suddenly find myself quoting a movie or something I've read at some point, and it's, sometimes it's a novelty, but I think other people are like, dude, really? But
yeah,
still, so it evolved into, and it's something that I spoke to on that as well, Kathleen, just how everybody can find a home within the theater. And I found that it took me a while through grade school to find that, because I just always felt like such the outsider. There was never anywhere I truly fit in until high school, pretty much, when I really started getting involved with theater. And this great theater company out of this little town in Montana called Boulder. And yet this was a theater company that did best in state, and even was invited to a theater festival in Scotland, the Fringe.
Oh, yeah,
in Edinburgh.
Oh, the Fringe.
Yeah.
Yep. We, fundraised and acted our heinies off to make enough money to go over there to do a Woody Allen show, Don't Drink the Water, in Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh, yeah. Fantastic.
So, came out of that, and then after a 4 or 5 year stint in the Army, I then got back into it again at Carroll College in Helena and pursued performing arts in there, but met up with a bunch of other like-minded artists there, whether it were the aficionados, the very passionate folk who are just doing it all the time, or the jocks who just need a fine arts credit and just want to take a quick acting class. But everybody was included. Everybody got something great out of the experience that they had in that. And met some friends who evolved into film work as well. And then at one point I just decided I've grown enough here and just came to Portland. And once I got settled in and I tried auditioning a bit, I believe they're coming up soon this year. The PADA's citywide auditions are happening soon. So I tried out for that a couple times, but at first nothing came of it. But then suddenly I'm getting this offer out of the blue from Alisa for a role in her upcoming production of Dorian Gray. And was a treat to be found and thought of, and have a role already there. So just came in, and then the rest is history. I acted a few more shows with her, and got involved in a few more. Got involved with the company on a higher level as one of the board members. Being a secretary, I'm kind of jotting the minutes for the meetings, but also just having that other eye, ear, and heart at the core of the theater has been something to see as well. Just seeing all the inner workings of putting a theater together, and it's grown so much in the time that I've been here. It's been amazing to see.
Alisa, it saved you for last on purpose because, among other things, as your title there shows, you're the artistic director for the Experience Theater Project. And I'm curious your own background and what led you to this program and this project.
Well, when I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and I knew, well, from a very young age, I learned piano and I played and I would perform the piano. My grandparents were opera singers, so my grandmother was always very theatrical. And so I always loved to play piano with her, and I would play recitals. I took lessons for years and years, and then so it came naturally to perform. And so when I was old enough to try and perform, I did, and it was just I couldn't stop. and even when I was in elementary school and then into grades or into junior high and high school, I was like, the junior and senior high school were together in one building, and I remember walking in as an 8th grader and they're like, this is for high schoolers only. And at that point I thought, oh my gosh, I felt terrible. And then my mother was just like, if you want to do this, go ahead and do this, but I'm not, nobody, but just wait, but don't make it so that you never go back because you were embarrassed by that. And so it took a lot of courage for me to go in and audition eventually. And then I finally did, then I got cast, and then it just sort of snowballed with just always wanted to be around those people. I loved being a thespian in high school. We had an initiation where you had to dress up all day in high school wearing a toga, and I'm like, I'll wear it every day if I have to. I had no shame. It was just, to me, the theater people were my people. It was just like, and we just all grew together. And then when I was going into college, I knew at 18, I'm like, I'm going to be an artistic director. And I'm just like, I would tell everybody that. I'm like, don't you want to just be an actress? And I'm like, I want to be an artistic director though, and it was always something that I had a passion for. And so through college, I was acting and directing, and then went to Chicago and worked in professional theater for a while, as a stage manager, as a director, as a sound designer. Took master's studies at Columbia College in theater management, so I would understand how to manage a theater. And then took a break for a while after doing that for several years because I needed just to kind of step away, and I got a day job so that I could pay bills. I didn't want to eat ramen for the rest of my life. And, and I wanted to be able to go out with my friends to, like, instead of just feeling like, how much money do I have in my wallet? And then joined a band, did some performing that way, and then eventually moved back to Portland, and really got exposed to my first immersive theater show at the Shaking the Tree Theater here in Portland several years ago. I saw a show called The Mask of the Red Death, and I walked in, and it was just like, hang up your coat and walk that way, and it was just an empty room. And I was with my friend Leah, who's also on the board, and I said, "What is this?" And we just stood there, and then suddenly things started happening. And when I walked out of that show, and if Leah was here, she could attest to this. I was shaking, going, "This is what I want to do. This is what the next gen of theater has to be, is immersive theater."
Let's go there for a minute. I'm going to stay with you for a minute, Alisa, and talk a little bit for someone who may be brand new to immersive theater. Can you describe what happens and what makes immersive theater different from the traditional audience sit and watch theater?
Well, I always tell people, I oftentimes ask people if they know what it's like when they go into a haunted house, or if they go into a Disney ride. You're walking into a certain space, and you're not watching it though. You're kind of in it. And so I often tell people who don't know what immersive theater is, just like, you are in the story. You're not part of the story, such as when you were mentioning Tony and Tina's wedding. To me, that's an interactive theater, which is slightly, for me, at least in my definition of what we do in our company, is slightly different, because interactive requires the help of the audience to move it forward.
Right.
We have 2 programs like that now. It's called our Present series, and it's one that we're mounting for in March, Flanagan's Wake. But but immersive theater is really the way we present it is you are a fly on the wall or a ghost in the room, and you're watching the story as it unfolds around you, not several yards or feet away on a stage that is separate through a proscenium, which is almost like watching a television or a film screen. It is 360. When I direct a show, it's always cardinal directions. You're going to take 2 steps north and then turn east. So I mean, and we have to, because we are very mindful of where the people are, and so, and oftentimes a lot of the direction comes of because there's somebody there. You're gonna do something here that might actually interact with an audience member, but not depend on them to be there, because that scares some people, right? Sometimes people just don't want to be involved. They just want to watch. But you can do that in an immersive setting. You can just sit and watch, or walk and watch, depending on if it's a promenade show, which we've also done.
I want to go back to Ryan, because you said something when you were talking a few minutes ago about getting involved, Alisa inviting you to be a part of a show. And I'm wondering if that is continues to be part of your involvement with the theater, and how you view the idea of performing or acting in this immersive setting.
It is very palpable how, for lack of a better way to explain it, there is this energy that comes from performing a live show. And I mean, you do feel it when the audience is in a traditional theater setting and they're a few feet away. But when they're a few inches away, it's just that much more enclosed, that much more intense. And it's just, for lack of a better word, more immersive in that way. So it just really forces you as the actor to just be sure that you're in the moment as this character or characters that you're playing. And it is very reminiscent of film acting as well, because with theater, there's the luxury of the audience being a few feet away, whereas with film, they're right here. And you're seeing every little facial tick. And if something goes off for a moment and it shows in your face briefly, they'll see it. Well, they may not understand it at first, but there's something that they'll feel that just shifts the show ever so subtly. So it's just all the more important to just stay focused, stay in the scene, in the show on the whole.
Yeah. Kathleen, I want to come back to you as well for a minute. As you look at this from your background as a teacher and as someone who has presented this, what your impressions are of how this type of theater is performed and presented.
It's hard to explain the difference between observing from the distance and seeing the sweat, seeing people shiver, seeing the fear in their face, and just being so close. It just takes your breath away. It really does, to have them going through the story. And I just saw Macbeth with them and felt like I was right there in the witch's coven, as they were experiencing what they were sharing with the audience. It was a gift in a different way than you normally have in theater, which is just a different artistry level. And so it's so appealing to being part of that in any way, as an audience member, director, crew, actor. I think it's doing something that is so fresh and so vibrant and just you talk about it. You go home, like I did with Macbeth. I took one of my students. You go back and you talk about what the difference was and what did you feel and how it changed you and how it made you see Macbeth in a different light from a standard show. So I think it's thrilling, and I'm a cheerleader for them. Just here in my living room, but it was great.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more we could delve into here, and my hope is that what we help create here is a curiosity that people would want to do this, and I think maybe that's sort of the next point here is, there may be people who are curious and would just say, okay, I've got to go do this, but there may also be people who'd be very curious, but they might be nervous or feel like they would be intimidated about this type of experience. And what is your pitch to people who might have that curiosity but be a bit uncertain or nervous?
Well, first of all, I would say that there's nothing to be worried about because you are not going to be featured in the show nor pointed out nor asked to do anything that you don't want to do. You're just a guest in the story. And so if you're curious about the story, then please come explore what it feels like to find yourself within that story. We've done we did the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and we set it in a gold mining town, and we invited people to sit in our bar, and so you sat in the bar, and then the action would happen around this bar, but then would move into the main street area, which people could walk into, and then or wander through Victorian times when we did do the Picture of Dorian Gray, where and there was big reveals and things like that. The thrill is not knowing what to expect. There is an element of magic involved. I really believe that a lot of what we do is to look over here, and then we do something over here where you're not seeing what we're doing.
Misdirection.
And then now you turn and whoa, everything's different. And so it's if you enjoy a non-traditional storytelling, then I think that immersive theater is something to explore. Our St. Patrick's Day themed show that's going to be opening up just after during this interview is Flanagan's Wake, and that's a great way to explore because that show is actually interactive versus immersive. Okay. I kind of have a dividing line between it because these guys are talking to the audience and asking for audience to give them ideas as to how did Flanagan die? He died. And people look, and then throw out a suggestion. And then, so it's very improv oriented. And so but the whole place is going to be, we're making the whole space into an Irish bar, an Irish pub. And cool. So where this all takes place.
I want to step away a little bit from the performance side of it because I want to talk to you as the board members as well. Because as a board for an organization, you have a fiduciary responsibility. You're responsible for the health of the organization. And I'm wondering if you can share anything from a board member's perspective about how you balance creative risk in doing this kind of immersive performance with maintaining organizational sustainability as in your responsibility as a board.
Well, I think I can say that I pretty much shoulder a lot of that burden. I definitely work with our treasurer and see the books daily. I would say that because Bean just joined us, she's coming to our first meeting next week, so she's kind of has a limited idea of that, though we do have an agreement from all our board members to contribute to the health of the theater. I can say that we've been in our current space for about a year and 3 months or so. And so we had a little kind of savings that we had to spend on the upgrade to make a former flower shop / dry cleaning business into a theater space.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of money to upgrade that from our savings. And so now that we've completed a full year and are in the middle of our season, I'm seeing like, wow, we really need to step up our game. That's something that we're going to be talking about at our board meeting next week, is of like there's a lot more expenses than when we were just doing a single show at the Masonic Lodge, or a single event. We didn't have to have sustaining. We didn't have employees. We didn't have to have a big development plan, because we did such sparse work that anytime we got a grant or anytime we got a donation, it just went into a savings account, and then we'd pull it out when we needed to use it. Well, now that we're in our own space, it's definitely a much heavier load to bear. And so I did retain the services of a development coordinator who works part-time. And so, but she's still kind of getting up to speed with a lot of things. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is like, well, how are we going to keep the things going? I mean, the ticket sales do help. We have a couple of grants coming in, and then it's just a matter of like, so we are going through truly growing pains right now because of our budget is growing. I mean, right now, these board members don't even know that we're up to the $200,000 expense mark right as of today, and it's like that's the biggest we've ever seen ever. Yeah. I mean, when our budget in the past has been just about for the whole year has just been about $100,000. Now our budget is like $350,000, and it's like, and we need more funding. So we're going to have to hustle and get more sponsors. That's what our development person is working on, and tapping some other potential donors. So all of it is really just kind of, and then of course there's the whole human resource side of it. Dealing with procedures. That's another thing we're going to be talking about at our next board meeting, is standard operating procedures, and how do we address this? How do we address that? These are all, none of this has ever been a thing in the past for us. We've always just had a real focus on just, here's this show, we're going to focus on the show, and then we advertise the show, and now the show's done. So from a managerial point of view, now it's like, well, we've got rent, we've got employees, we've got problems between employees, we've got questions about how do we handle these kinds of expenses, and how do we, so it's a whole new, what I call a new bag of beans. Then we're just trying to learn how to get through it. Yes.
You mentioned what's coming up for your programs with Flanagan's Wake and that type of thing. I'm also curious about vision. What's the long-term vision? What would you like to see happening with Experience Theater Project as you look down the road? Where do you see it going? Well, I'm hoping that with the addition of being here, we would be able to start talking about how we can incorporate an educational component into some of the things so that we can. I would learn a little bit more about that, because I don't know much about it. But I'd also like to invite some bilingual folks to come in, because we are situated in Aloha, which has a very strong, large Hispanic population, and there's really not much for them to do out there outside of hanging out in the parking lot of the billiards club, and it's like, well, how about this? How about we invite somebody in and ask what they'd like to see? What would bring them in the doors? What would be an alternative programming, almost like, that we could sort of start developing and find out what is that, because that could open up a whole nother door. I'm not the person to do it, but I am wanting to kind of see if there's some efforts that we can do. I'm actually reached out to the Oregon Community Foundation to have them there's a person there that I'm going to be talking with who might know some people who know people, that whole connection thing, to see if there's people that we can find out what would interest them, what could we do for them, because we are all community, and we want to, that's part of being part of
doing theater is kind of circling back to what you guys all started to speak about, which was, it's a sense of belonging. It's a sense that you're welcome here, and why not? And language shouldn't be the barrier. Right now our programming is very, obviously English based, but why not have other sort of shades of like, well, could we take a program and make it something different? Maybe base it on their cultures, their whatever it is that their stories. Like I think that would be a lot of fun to explore and see where that would go, and could we work that into the program as well? So yeah, I think that would be important too. And then of course, hopefully, the dream is in a few years we get larger and larger, we outgrow our space and we have to find a bigger space, which would be lovely. And then we can now make larger sort of experiences that are really just hugely robust, especially in the UK. I've been there several times. I've gone to Punch Drunk, which is a huge company there, and also had Sleep No More in New York for a lot of years. Huge installations to have their immersive experiences. And I'm hoping that we get to a level where we can not only have a big installation for one of our shows, but also better serve like more of the community, more programs, more opportunities.
As we wrap up, if people want to learn more about Experience Theater Project, to know when they can come and see your shows, or if they can help you with their financial support or in any other way, where can they find you?
At experiencetheaterproject.org is our website address. We also have a presence on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok as well. So there's a lot. And then, of course, right on the first page, it shows what our next up show is going to be.
Excellent. Well, as we wrap up here, I would just like to say thank you, Kathleen, Alisa, and Ryan. Thank you for taking the time to be here to share your stories, share what's going on with the Experience Theater Project. And I just want to say I wish you the very best. We look forward to continuing to hear about the amazing things that you're doing in your community and how that is spreading even far beyond. So best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was my conversation with the team from Experience Theater Project. I know you enjoyed it. I could tell from the comments that was an interesting conversation for you as well, and I hope it opens some doors of insight. I know we're running a little bit late. I do want to quickly share some things that are coming up. So here's a brief preview of what's going to be happening the next couple of weeks with Coffee Breaks.
It was about a 45-minute ride from the airport to the student residence I was staying at, and I remember in the car ride, I was just looking around and everything was so unfamiliar, and obviously I had jet lag. So I just was sobbing on the way there, and I was just so worried I would never get adjusted and I wouldn't like it there. And so fast forward a few months, I was pretty settled in, and I had met so many great people all around the world, and classes were going well. So
there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, including some supposedly serious ones like, did we actually land on the moon, or did 9/11 really happen? There are also a lot of even more ridiculous conspiracy theories out there, like, do tinfoil hats actually keep aliens from reading our thoughts, or are dolphins actually agents for the US government working with the Navy? Well, we're going to explore some of the sillier, more lighthearted, and funnier conspiracy theories out there, and we invite you to join us and have a laugh. Unless, of course, you're part of the conspiracy. Yeah, we've got I think, some fun episodes continuing to come up. And just want to also say again, a big thank you, a huge thank you to Alisa, Ryan, and Kathleen for taking the time to join us to talk about Experience Theater Project. I hope some of you will have the opportunity to join them for one of their shows. Look them up online. I just want to also thank you for being here, for being a part of this. We are getting ready for a big celebration in a month. We're going to be celebrating 7 years of Coffee Breaks with Steve, and you're going to be hearing more about that in the weeks ahead as we get ready for that big celebration. We're putting it together now. And once again, so much going on in our world. I know some of it can be a little bit stressful, a lot stressful in some cases. But the reality is that we all have ways of touching lives around us, of advocating for the things that we know are important, for doing things that will not only help us to feel more involved and more active, but will touch the lives of other people. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.